Now you're watching Gearz.
Hey, welcome to Gearz, and the next step on our '59 Chevy Apache pickup project, which is well on its way to becoming a cool hot rod truck. Now, what we've got going on here is a level 4 frame-up build as based off of the 5 levels of restoration that we showed you before. Now, obviously, if we're gonna do a frame-up build, you gotta start with a solid foundation. And instead of blowing the old truck apart and revamping that old original frame, we got a new replacement frame from Total Cost Involved. Then we pre-fit all of the new front and rear suspension and the brake components to make sure everything was fitting the way we wanted it. After that, we tore it all back apart and sent the frame to Mr. Speed in Goodlettsville, Tennessee, to get it powder coated with a cool textured bronze that's going to work really well with any body color. Now, since Mr. Speed is one of the premier powder coaters in the nation, they have a ton of options for coatings, and they'll powder coat pretty much anything that you can drag in. But for frames, it's hard to beat the textured or matte colors, since they not only look awesome, but they also hide dirt and imperfections, so they don't require a lot of maintenance or prep work, making them perfect for frame rails. Then, for the link bars, the rear end housings, and all the other moving parts, I like to use the high gloss or metallic finishes to add a punch and detail to the chassis. And you can see how well they complement each other when it all comes back together. Now, there's no question this chassis looks great and seems to be coming together really quick, and it is. But there's more to this step than just bolting things together, because with your paint and powder coating done, you're ready for the final assembly, and that involves some tools and some knowledge that is not going to be included in any directions. For example, things like torquing all the bolts to spec, and using anti-seize, thread locker, or sealant where appropriate. Also, all the bushings, ball joints, and tie rods need to be greased properly. The steering rack needs to be centered up, and the caster, camber, and toe need to be set to preliminary specs. It's also a good time to fill your differential with fluid and even bleed your brakes, because with the master cylinder mounted down in the frame like this, you can actually bleed your brakes now. So your chassis is finished, it's done, you can set it aside, and you can move on to your next step, which in our case is going to be what we're going to do with this old body. Now, since the focal point of any truck is the bed, that's where we're going to start. And the first question is, what are we going to do with it? Because if we were going to build a patina truck, we could lift it up off of here, clean it up a little bit, fix a few dents, drop it down on this new chassis, and we have an old-looking truck with all modern running gear. It'd be awesome. Unfortunately, that's not the direction we're going with this build. This is a hot rod truck that's going to have custom paint and body work. So we either need to blow this all apart, clean every piece up, strip it all down to bare metal, fix all of the rust and the dents and the holes in every panel, and then lay it out on how we're going to put the truck together. Yeah, that's a lot of work. Or we can bypass all that work and dig through that pile of boxes. Now, what you're looking at here is basically that bed brand new in the box, because these are new reproduction parts from LMC Truck for the 55 through 59 GM trucks. And I'm talking bed sides, fenders, bed wood, bed strips, tailgate, hardware, cross members. It's all here, which brings up the question, when do you restore the parts and when do you replace them with reproductions? It's a good question. Obviously, if your body parts are rare and in really good shape, you're going to want to restore them. But if they're all rusty and nasty, full of holes, falling apart, and reproductions are available, you're probably going to want to go with reproductions, because these will save you a ton of time and money in the long run. Also, old vintage body parts like this are valuable to the rat rod and patina crowd. So instead of stripping it all down and losing all this cool rustic value that some people really want, It's better to sell it and use the money to offset the cost of some new reproduction parts. Now, I know some of you guys are saying, yeah, but what's the quality difference between reproduction parts and OEM? Well, you're about to find out, because we are going to build this brand new bed on that new chassis right alongside this original bed and see how they compare.
Metal. It's one of the key components of what we build and fabricate with. But if you can't shape it and cut it, you can't build with it. For over 50 years, Woodward Fab has been supplying the tools and technical advice to get the job done right. Bead rollers, brakes, shears, tubing benders. You'll find what you need whether you're a professional metal worker or just starting out. Woodward Fab, shaping metal since 1966.
Hey, welcome back to Gearz, where we are just about to dive into constructing a new bed for our Chevy truck using all new reproduction sheet metal from LMC Truck. Now, there's a couple of ways that you can approach this. You can build the bed down on the floor, then have a couple of guys help you pick it up and drop it down on the frame, or you can actually build the bed right here on the frame. And since we're using an aftermarket frame with variables like a fuel tank that's going to mount underneath the bed, it's better for us to build it right here on the frame. But first, we're going to take a look at that sheet metal and see how it compares with that original sheet metal. The first thing to check are the creases and the body lines. You see how sharp and straight these lines are? That's what you want. Same with these lines around the fender openings. You want them crisp with no waves. This is really nice. The top of the fenders are straight and smooth with only a small dip right here before the flange. Now obviously this is extremely minor and easily fixed with a hammer and dolly or a skim coat of filler. The original fenders, they're going to need a lot more work than that. The bed sides are next, and as you can see, the side panels and rolled top are extremely straight with no waves or wrinkles. And even the ribs in the bed sides are spot on to the originals. The front bed panel and the tailgate are going to need some body work to smooth and straighten the spot welds and the flanges. But the original panels not only need that, but some rust repair as well. So hopefully you can see that aftermarket sheet metal is a viable option for your project. You're going to have way more time and money into fixing and restoring something like this than you will in putting something like that together. However, don't think for a second that all this stuff is just going to bolt together and line it perfectly. It doesn't work that way, no matter what you may have seen on the internet. Now, there is a lot of work and fitting that's involved in putting together aftermarket sheet metal. So, be prepared. All right, let's get to it. Okay, we're going to start by setting these new LMC cross members in place. Now, these are designed to fit a stock frame, so if you're using an aftermarket frame like we are, be prepared to file the holes a bit to make them fit. All right, the next step is to lay out your wood boards. And as you can see, the wood kit that we got features some really nice oak and some stainless steel strips. So this is going to look awesome. But the way you lay out your planks will completely change the way your bed looks. So make sure you spend some time moving some planks around, getting the grain to flow how you want it so it has the right look. Also, don't forget to factor in things like a fuel tank that's going up under the bed, because that filler neck has got to come out through one of these boards. Now, once you have the boards laid out, you can start setting them in place on the cross members, starting on one side and working across the bed. The goal here is to fit each plank as you go so things stay square and even as you work across. If there's any filing or adjusting needed, now's the time to do it. All right, at this point we are ready to mount the plank that's going to fit the fuel filler neck in it. Now, as you can see, we already have the tank jacked into place, so we can decide exactly where we're going to mount this filler neck. Also, as you can see, this tank is designed for that filler neck to come up right in the middle of this plank. And one of the reasons that I chose this specific plank is it's got this really cool knot right here. So it would be a great visual accent if that filler neck would come up right in the middle of that knot. So we're going to adjust that tank, see if we can make that happen.
A successful automotive project takes planning and organization. But instead of using an old tablet or notebook, there's the Gearz Deluxe Project Planning Book. This was designed to help you lay out a project, the parts, the tools, costs, and keep it organized with colored tabs, a pouch for receipts, and even a place to attach photos. If you decide to sell the vehicle, it serves as a complete history of what's been done. If you have a project or plan on starting one, the Gearz Project Planning Book is the best way to lay it out and make it happen.
Hey, welcome back, where we are in the process of showing you what's involved in building a new truck bed out of reproduction parts as opposed to maybe restoring your original bed. Now at this point, as you can see, we've got all the oak planks and trim strips laid out, and this thing's coming together really nice. Take a look. All the grain is flowing in the same direction, and as you can see, it flows right around the fuel filler neck, which is going to make this a major focal point of the bed wood. Once we get a stain on this, that grain is just gonna pop. Okay, what I'm doing now is truing everything up and making sure it's all square. Make sure that you spend some time here, especially on the front and in the rear, because these areas are going to be seen when you get the bed all assembled. And having all these planks and these strips flush across the back and on the front is time well spent, believe me. Now, at this point, it's important to remember that you're just pre-fitting everything to make sure all of the major components are fitting right. All of these final details, like countersinking these bolts and pulling these protective covers off of these strips and polishing those out, countersinking the fuel filler neck, and even putting the stain and the final finish on the wood, all that's going to come later after you disassemble this thing like 3 or 4 times. Right now, you're wanting to get it square. So once you have the bed floor square and even, you're ready to start fitting sheet metal. We'll start by setting one of the bed sides in place. Now it's designed to slide onto the rear cross member, and then the inner flange sits on top of the wood. Now in a perfect world, it would just drop in place and bolt up, but don't expect that here. Be prepared to file some edges and open up some holes. Hammer and dolly some creases or dents to straighten them up. File and grind some edges to true those up. And use whatever other body tools you might need to straighten things out. Now once everything is trued up, set the bed side back in place, square up the rear bed side with the rear cross member, and tighten the bolts. All right, one down, one to go, and we're going to use the exact same process on the other side. All right, with the bed sides in place, we are ready to move on to this front panel. And it's designed to bolt to the fronts of the bed side and to the wood, so it ties everything together. So don't be surprised to have to do a little bit of tweaking and filing and hammer and dolly work to get it to fit as well. Once that's done, we'll mark the holes for our bed sides and then take all the sheet metal back off so you can drill the holes. Now, I know this seems like a lot of work, but you've got to have the bed sides out of the way to drill the holes straight so your mounting hardware sits flat. Now, once you have the holes drilled, you get to put it all back together. I told you you'd be doing this a lot. Now, once everything is back together, yet again, you should have a square bed that's sitting straight on the chassis. That's why it's important that every one of these steps, from the cross members to the wood to the sheet metal, are all fit and adjusted as you go. Because then when you get to the end here, it should be spot on. Now, if for some reason you've gotten something a little out of whack, now is the time to fix it. All right, it's starting to look like a bed now. Next step is to get those fenders on it. Now, as you can see, the bed sides come with pre-punched holes that match the mounting holes in the flange on the fender. So it should bolt on without too much of a hassle. But it's still a good idea to spend some time working the flange and making sure it's nice and flat. That way you get a good flush fit against the side of the bed. For hardware, we're using these factory-style bolts from LMC that feature a special button head for a nice, clean look that also matches the bed strip bolts. You know, one of the first true freedoms you experience as a kid is that first bicycle. Man, it becomes your transportation to the world, or at least the local neighborhood. And in my neighborhood, man, we all had bikes. And we'd stick playing cards in the spokes, and we'd suck on black licorice, make it look like we were big biker dudes. And it was magic. But a bike wasn't just about transportation. No, it became an extension of your personality. And there were all kinds of bikes out there. There were 10 speeds, there were mountain bikes, there were Stingrays, there were BMX bikes, and they all had their strengths and weaknesses. And that's where the idea for the story of the purple bicycle came from. Because just like a bike might wish it had the talents or skills of another bike, so do we sometimes overlook our God-given talents and wish we had somebody else's talents, skills, because they seem to be better than ours. It's a simple lesson, but something we all need to be reminded of from time to time. Hey, we're back, and if you're just getting here, man, you have missed a lot. Because what started out as a bunch of random parts in those boxes has now become a new reproduction bed for our '59 Apache truck. Now, as you can see, the bed floor is in place, the bed sides, the fenders, and it's all looking really good. So now we're on to some final details, like the tailgate, the bumpers, the taillights, and all that stuff that finishes off the back of the bed. Installing the tailgate starts with tapping the new rollers into the bottom pockets of the tailgate. And then bolting the tailgate to the bed sides. Now, obviously the tailgate is pretty important because it not only serves as the gateway to get in and out of your bed, but it also serves as a standard of measure to see how square your bed really is, because these lines don't lie, and nobody wants a crooked tailgate. So this is the kind of fit that you're after on a reproduction bed or an original bed. Now, as far as latching the tailgate, you got some options. You can get replacement chains like this, if that's the look you're after, and you don't mind this kind of stuff going on your new bed. Or if you want something a little more substantial, modern latching systems are available. Now, we've used these before, they fit great. That's what we're going to use on this bed. But before we do that, we need to address the taillights and the rear bumper. Now, LMC carries new bumper brackets and new bumpers. And as you can see, they bolted right to this aftermarket frame, which is really nice. Also, they carry original style taillights and brackets, and they bolt right to the original location on the sides of the bed. Now, those may look like original taillights, but if you look closely, you can see they have LED bulbs in them. So we have the old school look we want, but we also have the modern brightness that we need to hopefully keep people from running into the back of us. Well, there it is, a completely new reproduction bed, all put together and ready to go. It's pretty awesome. Now, does it beat restoring your original bed? Well, that's up to you and what you've got to work with. But at least now you know you got some options. So, what do we do now? Well, we get to pull it all back apart again, do the paint and body work, stain and clear the wood, and put it all back together yet again. But that's for another day. Right now, we're going to enjoy our new bed.
What are you working on? Brought to you by Woodward Fabrication, selling quality metalworking equipment since 1966.
Today's What Are You Working On comes from Steve. He's from Minden, Nevada, and his project is a 1952 Studebaker pickup. Here's a picture of it. It's cool, sitting outside the shop. Now, his story, though, is one of perseverance, so let's go back in time a little bit. He said that his first vehicle was a 52 Studebaker pickup when he was 19. There he is. Now, he is retired, and he's got a great shop outside the house, and he found a 52 Studebaker pickup that was going to be his retirement hot rod. Now, here was the plan. He was going to set it up with a 94 Dodge Dakota chassis, an LS3 engine, and a Ford rear end. So he's got Ford, Chevy, and Dodge in a Studebaker. This is a great hot rod. I love this thing. However, one night, check this out. He said a cordless lithium battery on a charger failed and burned his shop to the ground. The Studebaker was parked beside the shop, and it got charred all down the driver's side. So he purchased another Dakota. He is now in the process of rebuilding the shop. He says 45 years of tool and equipment acquisition gone in the fire. But he said, I'm not going to let that stop me. I'm going to build my truck. Steve, that's awesome, man. If you're not involved with a bunch of hot rodders out there, you need to, because they'll help you. Matter of fact, if I was out there, I'd help you work on that truck right now today. So, to take you one step closer to regaining some of those tools, we are going to give you a Super bead roller from Woodward Fab. This is a manual bead roller that comes with a bunch of dies so you can roll beads and flanges. Then we're going to set you up with a Gearz fender cover so you can protect the fender of one of the vehicles you've got out there. Then we're going to give you a deluxe project planning book. Now this will allow you to keep track of everything that you're going to do to that Studebaker. Then finally, we're going to give you a Sergeant Rock die cast and a package of Gearz coffee cars so you can not only enjoy the coffee, but also check out what collectible sticker there might be inside. Now, for the rest of you guys, if you want to get in on this and get your projects featured on the show, you got to send them to us. Go to our website, go to Gearz Nation, and submit it into What Are You Working On? The website's also the place to find out more information on any products you may have seen on the show, any Gearz merchandise, and how to join Gearz Nation. Also, make sure you check out our social media. That's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, all at Official Stacey David. YouTube is also the place to view all of your favorite Gearz episodes, as well as the Gearz Restoration Series and our full project builds that follow a project from beginning to end. And finally, if you're a radio person, be sure and check out our podcast, Tales of a Gearhead. All right, that wraps it up for us today, and it's also a good time to remind you to keep moving forward on your project. I know it may seem like it's taken a long time, but just do something on it every day if you can, and eventually you'll get it done. And if you don't have a project, you need to get one because you're missing out. All right, we'll see you next time.